I don't know what they're talking about, but let's see what it is that they're discussing. They're discussing, will these albums become classics? I'm not entertaining this question, brother.
Don't please.
I'm not entertaining this question. Now, I'm assuming they're discussing whether or not these albums listed below will become classic. And while I don't really need to hear out their reasons for real, I could give my assessment because these are all great records. I don't know if they'll become classics. I do think that, like, classic culture, I know it sounds weird or odd to say it like that, but I think the concept of wondering what will and won't be classic does come at the detriment of whatever record that you're discussing, because some albums are just that. They're just great. They're just really good without any future connotation to them of whether or not they need to age like fine wine or, you know what I'm saying, be the greatest of all, because when you put something in a classic conversation, you immediately open it up to comparison and scrutiny, whereas for the average listener, they would listen to it and just say or regard it as one of their favorite records. You know what I'm saying? I got albums like that. I think a lot of the albums here fall into that category for me personally, where I would listen to it over and over or a lot, but I wouldn't really hold it in super high regard to a point where I'd have to scrutinize it to justify whether or not it's a classic. You know what I'm saying? I feel that way about this album from Travis Scott. What was it? I don't even remember the name of it. Oh my God, what's the name of the album? Fuck, I forgot. What is the name of the album? Oh my God. Utopia, there you go. I was thinking of Astroworld in my head. So, Utopia, I feel that way about. Great album to me. Immediately I would start trying to knock it down pegs if I had to call it a classic. But it is a fantastic record and easily up there with Travis Scott's best. If not, I could see somebody arguing why it's his best. You know what I'm saying? I fuck with Utopia. And I just went back to listen to the one with West Side Gun, Forever. I forgot what the name of it was again, but I just went back and listened to that song, and it's amazing. It's fantastic. You know, I go back and I listen to Thank God. I go back and listen to the intro record. I go back and listen to the record with SZA and Future. I think it was Telekinesis. You know what I'm saying? Schizo. Fantastic. Y'all know I really tuned into My Eyes, I believe, was on the album too. But that other one that has the really simple beat in the background, it's kind of dreamy and hypnotic. I just don't remember what the name of it was. The one with Beyonce, like, it's really a great album all around. It really is a great album all around. I can't really accept any type of disdain on its name. I don't really need to hear the justification over it either. Donda, another album that I think, while it is really, really, really long, it is a good time. And knowing that it had been anticipated at the level that it was and it had the rollout that it did, I think it justifiably required all the hype that was around it at the time. Because when it finally dropped, I had a lot of good music on that album. Obviously, some people would say it's bloated. Some people would be like, oh, you know what I'm saying, I'm not a fan of this record or this record, but as far as what Kanye has been saying and doing in the public eye most recently within the last few years, Donda has been the one bright point for me personally that I feel like not necessarily was worth the madness that he was talking about before the album had come out, but I could see somebody fighting on his behalf saying that he's one of the greatest of the great, and we just need to ignore what he says and let him release the music. Right now, I wouldn't take that approach or think that that idea is justifiable at all. But at this moment, someone could get that off, and I'll be like, yo, that's fire. I can't even hate on what I don't even care what he talking about, but I will tune into what he doing musically. At this era, at this point. Now, absolutely not. But at this point, some of the best music he had dropped in years showed up. I mean, You're the Moon, or wait, was it Moon? You had Off the Grid. It was mad records. You had the one with Vori. I think it was what? No Child Left Behind. He had the deluxe. I think it was something about the Life of the Party track. It was just good all around. I felt like it was a lot off this album that I just thought that he did a great job with. And I don't even think anybody needs to ask me or tell me why this is a great album. It just is, especially it coming from the era that Kanye was in at the moment. This one, what was it? We Don't Trust You. I like this so much. I would call it a great album, really good listen. Beats were great. Future's performance on it, I think, was pretty good. Features were good. Like That is still some people's favorite. It's one of my favorites off the album. But I do got a lot of other records off of We Don't Trust You that I think are fantastic. And if I could read them off, like, because of the way and how many albums Future dropped this year, how much like music came out from him, I think it kind of neutered, or maybe made people forget about what he did with Metro earlier in the year. This is the issue with Future and the quantity of his drops. But this was, I mean, we had Ice Attack, Type Shit. The intro record was great. Young Metro was good. Like That was fantastic. Cinderella, even though it was underwhelming after it came out, like, I still needed it. It was a good record. GTA, I mean, it was just a lot of shit. Seen It All, the last track. I mean, I thought that was a really strong release this year. It was a really strong release. And while I don't think it was Future's absolute best in his discog, like, for this year's standards, I mean, it was a good addition to what we had this year. It was. It's just the facts. Mr. Morale, y'all don't need to go on and on about this one, bro. I already know what the reason that you're gonna give it. And while I do have my discrepancies with it from a concept perspective, it's definitely his most considerate album, his most thoughtful record, his best writing, I think, shows up here.
Does not Mike Delete claim to get a nomination?
No.
That Pie record was phenomenal.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't get a nomination. I don't know if this will become a classic, but it's definitely one of his best records. It's one of his best records that I'll go to the least, but it is 100% one of his best records. Gotta give him credit. Gotta give him credit for it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not mad at nobody calling it a classic, because there are themes on this album that show up that I'm just blown away by. Genuinely, from a writing perspective, he's shown himself to be the only one that's capable of going and approaching topics like that at the length that he approaches some of them, and with the consideration that he approaches some of it with. So I give him his credit. I do. I definitely give him his credit. Then we got Call Me If You Get Lost. I don't see that becoming classic. It takes from a lot. Lyrically speaking, I think there are some good themes, but I don't know if it'll resonate enough with the general public to say they're fucking with the message of it enough to go back to it constantly. Musically speaking, it's a lot of great shit that happens on here. That Young Boy feature was one of the most unexpected things that I came to appreciate and love in 2021, I believe, is when the album came out. One of the longest songs that Tyler, the Creator, has ever made, and one of the ones that I loved the most. I think it was Sweet and Home. Maybe, I don't remember the name of it again, but that's easily one of my favorite joints that Tyler has ever come out with. And it's, I think, what, 10 minutes long or 7 to 10 minutes long, something like that. It was crazy. It was phenomenal. So he got him a good one with Call Me If You Get Lost. I think I'm a bigger fan of Igor, and low-key Flower Boy, but Call Me If You Get Lost is a strong addition. Sweet, Thought You Wanted Me, okay, or Thought You Wanted to Dance, okay, I get that. But would I call it a classic? Nah. I haven't gone back to it much, but if I played it again, I would probably love it a lot more too. So can only say too much, or I can only say so much. Heroes and Villains. Love this one. Again, lots of great music, really fun listen. Came out at the wrong time of the year, in my opinion. I will say that. Came out at the wrong time of the year, but definitely a strong addition to Metro's discog and a powerful performance from, I think, most people involved, especially Don Toliver being spammed as much as he fucking was. But he did have strong additions. Future was on this, 21 Savage, Travis Scott gave sometimes and other times he didn't. I think Drake had a song on here that was supposed to be included at one point but didn't. And Metro Spider shows up on this bitch, which is one of my favorite Young Thug performances ever. He did his thing on there. So yeah, definitely really fun. Don't know if I call it a classic or not, but really, really good project. Definitely really good project. Chris Brown wasn't needed. I don't think that Chris Brown wasn't needed. I think that
Chauncey watching an NFR video was not on my 2024 bingo card.
Why do you have a bingo card?
Check, please. Whole Lotta Red is not a classic and neither is that Baby Keem album.
Well, I'm about to get to that because while I don't think that Whole Lotta Red is a classic, I don't think it's a strong enough body of work to be a classic on its own. I've heard this album's influence years beyond its release, and I gotta give it its credit once again. I really, really like Whole Lotta Red. Like, I went back to this album the other day, and I felt a burst of energy, the likes of which I had never before from a piece of music. Like, this shit was, like I said, and I say it again, I say it every time I talk about Whole Lotta Red, exactly the way people talk about Die Lit is how I feel about Whole Lotta Red. That energy, I feel that primitive, like, first instinct yell energy coming out of Playboi Carti's voice. It's just like what your first reaction would be if you were in the studio or if you were hearing the sounds that were on this album. What would your first instinct be? And on a lot of these songs, I'm just getting primitive Carti. He giving me some energy that I just didn't get from other niggas at the time, and I fucked with it. I don't know if I call it a classic, but I really, 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 really like Whole Lotta Red, and I gotta respect it and appreciate it. I don't know if I, accept somebody calling it a classic, but that's one of my favorite joints. Probably my favorite Playboi Carti project. And yes, I am a fan of his self-titled album, but this one, it hit me like instinctively. Like it hit me exactly where it needed to hit, and I don't even feel like the nigga was trying. But yeah, I love Whole Lotta Red. Denzel Curry's Melt My Eyes. As respectfully as possible. As respectfully as possible. I think that Denzel Curry has a Melt My Eyes. Not saying that this one isn't good, but I think he has a better version of this in the future. I definitely do. I'm not saying that this album isn't great on its own, because it definitely is. And I will go back to it. There's Walkin'. Let me go back to the track list and see what songs that I really favorited from this album. Because I don't want it to come out as if I'm saying that this isn't good on its own, because it is. But I think there will at some point in the future be a more, I don't even want to say complete or polished, because there's a lot of shit on this album that's already polished and complete as it is. Where is it at? Because they're only giving me 3 albums, and I don't know why. Yeah, he had I think the live version of this, or it was a different version of this, I don't remember. Walking, obviously. John Wayne was crazy. Mental was good. Troubles with T-Pain was good. X-Wing was one of my favorites. He had a lot of good work on here. He definitely did. So I'm waiting on another version of this. Maybe not necessarily a better version of it, but a continuation of this type of style and concept. You know what I'm saying? Mixed in with like maybe a little bit of Unlocked from him and Kenny Beats. I just like that era of Denzel, I think, the most. It's like the most retro, him in his most, like, him in his best state to me, you know? I really thought he had a really good artistic evolution by the time we got to this project, but I know he could take it a step further. I definitely know he could take it a step further. Classic to me, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, I'm saying it in a way that's not like disrespectful, you know what I'm saying? Then we got My Turn.
An album that released 2 years ago cannot be considered a classic. I love the album and I believe with time it will become one. They need to let albums breathe more. My Turn is terrible.
I don't think My Turn is terrible. I think it's a good showcase of what Lil Baby was doing in 2020, I believe is when that album came out. It had a lot of hits on it. It showcased a lot of his style and kind of summed up what Baby or Lil Baby could do on a track, on the mic. I don't think that means that he was at his best when this album came out. I don't think that means that he was putting out the best music at the time of this album's release, but it did summarize who Lil Baby was and what his skill set was in a way that I thought was sometimes rhythmic, sometimes showcasing how good his flow was, and just how aggressive, like not necessarily aggressive, but just how like on dick he was when it came to the beat selection. Like he was really all over the track. You know, he wasn't really giving it much breathing room, which is something that I appreciated, especially knowing that Lil Baby at that particular point in time was marketed as somebody that didn't know how to rap. You know what I mean? I would probably call this a classic one time. I think the way this thing introduces itself and the room that I feel like I'm in when I listen to Alfredo is like on some mobster shit. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I'm part of the family. You know what I'm saying? We all in the room eating the most expensive shit. The background music, or I guess the production value to this album, I don't know, they got it perfect. They definitely did. I don't know, there's really no way for me to describe this album, how I feel about it. Like, it just makes me feel like that nigga. It really does. Like, Alfredo, they put crack in. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think the best chance, or the ones that I wouldn't argue anybody out of, to be fair, would be Whole Lotta Red, Alfredo, and Mr. Morale. I could see you trying to argue me into Utopia if Travis Scott was a better rapper. I could see you trying to do that. Oh yeah, and I didn't get to the JPEG Mafia album either. Baby Keem, Melodic Blue. I'm still waiting on it to fully click. You know, it's a lot of great records off of here. A lot of great song ideas that I don't think are fully fleshed out land on this project, that I think may be fully realized for his next body of work. This was one of my most anticipated albums of 2021. So when it came out, I wouldn't say I was disappointed, but I was like, okay, I see where you was going. I found myself saying that a lot when I was listening to this album. I see where you were going. But that's usually where a lot of albums that end up being classic land. Albums that aren't fully complete or fleshed out, and then people come back 2 years later to talk about how great they were for their time. So I don't mind this being in somebody's list. I'm not hating on it. I like Melodic Blue a lot of great ideas, especially that one track. What was it? Pink Panties? I loved it. So I'm chilling off that. This is a great record to me. I don't know if I would call it, classic material. I think one that I personally think would be a better contender for the classic would be Daytona, more than what was this album even called? Something Dry? Is Dry out or something like that? Let me see. Pusha T. It's Almost Dry was the name of it. Okay, so yeah, I definitely love Neck and Wrist. Diet Coke was cool. Call My Bluff, Hear Me Clearly was good. I Pray For You was cool. Yeah, I don't think I would put Daytona before I would put this in there in that conversation. And I love it. I don't love it. I'm not gonna lie. It's not that I don't love it. I'm not as fond of it. It's cool. It's a Pusha T album. They got some great moments, but I wouldn't put it in the classic conversation. I wouldn't put it in that conversation. And then I think we got LP from I almost said Danny Brown, from JPEG Mafia. And if I can remember, I think I have every song on this album downloaded. And only other album I have that for when it comes to JPEG Mafia is Scaring the Hoes, and All My Heroes Are Cornballs, I think. Let me see. Where is it at? LP? Yeah. Yep. Chat. I'm dick riding. Oh, I don't have Nemo. And I don't have the Ball remix. But I do got the original, but I'm dick riding.
When you look at a GKMC at the top of a Butterfly and you play that game that we were playing with Astro and Rodeo, if we bring that same conversation into here,
I don't like this conversation because while I agree that this isn't a classic, or I wouldn't call it one, I feel like it's being smothered by these time constraints. It's been 2 years since this album dropped. Like I wouldn't even entertain the idea of a classic conversation with a record like this, because I haven't even listened to it enough to say whether or not I think it's a classic or not. I don't believe so because of the conceptual messages that I think are a bit hypocritical or contradictory unintentionally on this album. But at the end of the day, like, we're not talking about this like a Good Kid, Mad City or To Pimp a Butterfly, because those albums are both like, I don't know, 10 years old. Like, it's just too much. You know what I'm saying? Didn't the Peggy album also come out in 2022? Yes, but I already love that album. So I wouldn't have an issue having a conversation with that. I'm more so talking about records that I already am on the fence about or have been critical about, and I don't want to be unfair to them. I'm already, you know what I'm saying, critical of this record. So it's like, why put an additional, time constraint on it so I can be hyper analytical about it when I don't need to be?
Like, those are really big classics.
Manger on McNichols. Why didn't I think of that? Oh, you are so right. I would easily throw that in here. Oh my God. Or, no, not even Manger. That one he did with the Alchemist. What was it, Super Tecmo Bow? Nigga, I will put that in this conversation. I'm 100% locked putting Manger or Super Tecmo Bow in here. I will 100% do that. Easily. I ain't listened to Super Tecmo Bow in a minute, but that shit is crack. Oh, I need that album again. I'm gonna listen to it again.